Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. Today we're taking a look at Marvel Cosmic Invasion, a Marvel 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up game in the classic style. I was asked to take a look at this game a bit before it launched, and I gotta tell you, I had a lot of fun with it. And as we get into it, if you want to learn more about the game, if anything in this video sounds interesting to you, check the link in the video description. There's a lot to love here for fans of beat-em-ups or even fans of classic Marvel fighting games. Because if you like your Marvel vs. Capcom, there's definitely a reference or two here. But that said, here, let's talk about the game itself. So I mentioned here, this is very much a classic 2D beat-em-up style of game. It is exactly that to a T. Basically, a lot of the classic gameplay you would expect. And yes, that is a Mango Sentinel, by the way. We'll talk about that more later. With just a lot of everything. Lots of characters, lots of stages, lots of bosses, just lots of content. This is just a big love letter to just Marvel in general, and especially 90s Marvel. And by the way, yes, this is a multiplayer game if you want it to be, so 1 to 4 players, and it is just drop in, drop out multiplayer. So you can already be playing, pick up another controller, hit start, and another player is already in. And it's out on just about everything. So it's out on Xbox, PlayStation 4 and 5, PC, even distinct Nintendo Switch 1 and 2 versions. So not just regular Switch. So now that we talked about the basics, let's get to the gameplay proper. So the premise of the game, well, pick your favorite Marvel superheroes and stop the evil Annihilus from basically destroying the universe. And while you do so, why don't you take some stops at a lot of very famous Marvel locations like the Savage Land or Asgard. Now here we are on the main menu, campaign and arcade mode, that's where like the meat of the game is. We have a lot of extras, like say the Cosmic Matrix. This is where you just unlock lots of stuff. Music tracks, extra colors for characters, modifiers for arcade mode. We'll talk more about that later. Just lots of goodies to be found here. Other goodies, stuff like profiles for the various characters, just giving you some lore in case you don't happen to know. The Hero Lab, where you can see your upgrades for the characters, because the characters are mildly in-depth. It's not just the usual beat-em-up fare, where they're just as they are. There's level ups, there's unlockable stuff where they can get more skills, and let's talk about the characters. So here is our roster of characters. So we have 15 all and all. And each character plays very differently. Now, just to note, not every character is unlocked by default. You have a good over half the cast unlocked at the start, but some of them you will have to progress in the main campaign before they're unlocked. And there's all sorts of palettes and colors for you to unlock for the various characters just to keep things fresh as you're playing. Like, hey, if we have a She-Hulk, hey, what about a red She-Hulk, right? A lot of the classics. Like, you know, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, and all sorts of colors. And just a note on the roster here. So like, hey, She-Hulk, not regular Hulk. And hey, she's actually one of the most fun characters in the game, so I'm happy, right? But on more non-standard picks, we got Beta Ray Bill, not Thor. Like, he has Stormbreaker, he's got the big hammer, but it's not Thor. So I'm happy they went a little different. Like, hey, we got a Ghost Rider, we got Cosmic Ghost Rider, who happens to be alternate universe Frank Castle, aka the Punisher. And that does reflect in the playstyle, by the way. So as far as the roster, yeah, you got some of your big hitters. Yeah, Rocket Raccoon, yeah, Iron Man. But when we got people like Cosmic Ghost Rider, She-Hulk, Beta Ray Bill, like, I'm happy there's some more inspired choices in the cast. Also, when you pick your cast, you actually pick 2 characters. So you can just switch up on the fly whenever you want. In fact, it's very much baked into the core gameplay systems. So here we are, and we're just playing the game, and I'm She-Hulk right now, and a simple button press, I can be Storm, and you can switch back whenever you want. And in fact, once again, as part of the core gameplay, so say I hold my tag button here, right? So I'm tagging normally. If I hold tag and I tag a button, you can see here, I can send out an assist. You know, Marvel characters that fight and assists, there's a bit of a history there in Marvel versus Capcom games, right? And this game is definitely paying a lot of tribute to that. Like, I can have She-Hulk come out as an assist and command grab my enemies. And that's very interesting and different. Or say I can tag in as an attack and launch the enemy and then come back down and spike them to the ground. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with this. And of course, you have basic attacks, you have special attacks. So someone like She-Hulk is a grappler. So she'll grab you and just start tossing you everywhere. And she has multitudes of grabs. So like she has a wall bounce and she keeps comboing off wall bounces. There's also, say, jumping grabs, right? So Jen can do a lot of stuff just grab-wise. And of course, that's Jen. Storm can fly. So there's kind of like 2 lanes of combat, air combat and ground combat. A good chunk of the roster can just fly. It doesn't take any resource. They can just fly forever, attack in the air. It's just part of the game. Some people control the ground great, especially She-Hulk, like her running attack. There's running attacks, special attacks. There's a lot of attacks. There's a good variety in the combat. Like stuff for Storm. There's chargeable normals where I have like a regular attack or I can hold it longer and get like charging tornadoes. Also, there's like a frame perfect dodge. And it's different character to character. Some characters dodge. Some characters like She-Hulk can block. And block, well, withstands attacks to a degree. Not always, right? But if you block with perfect timing, you actually have like an active parry. So more fighting game stuff here. And of course, talking about fighting games, we need supers. And some characters got very big, very elaborate super attacks that will clear the screen like nobody's business. There's just a lot of variety though. Like say Cosmic Ghost Rider, he got all sorts of hellfire powers. He can definitely like just use the chains, whip you in, smash you around. He is part Punisher, so he can also just unload all sorts of guns on you or use the bike if you need it. Phoenix Classic Jean Grey, Master of Telekinesis, just flings people around like garbage, summons the Phoenix. Someone like Cap has shield bounces and can like ricochet off the shields off very interesting angles. Rocket Raccoon, he's got rockets, he's very mobile, double jumps, has all sorts of blasters, grenade tosses that have random elements. Oh, that's the big one. That's lucky. I didn't plan for that. And Rocket being Rocket, he can bust out the big stuff when he's got it, right? It's pretty satisfying. On top of the base moveset being pretty, expansive for what it is for a beat 'em up, right? Everyone also has passives that you can unlock while playing, and they do very interesting things. Like Storm, if she does a perfect dodge, she can do more shock damage with her moves. Someone like She-Hulk, she's incentivized to grab, right? So every time you throw someone with a grab, then your melee attacks are boosted. Basically, everyone's passive just gives an interesting little way to just alter your playstyle to mess around. I think that's pretty interesting. So the characters are good. What about the stages? So there's a very healthy amount of stages in this game. This is not some 4 or 5 stages we move on. There's a very healthy amount of stages. And a lot of stages have very interesting gimmicks or just something about them that just flavors everything up. And it all changes level to level. Like some stages have enemies that only exist in that specific level. Like this one, the enemies will punish you for standing still for too long. And same thing even with the environment. The environment will punish you for standing still for too long. Like in Wakanda, we got the classic fight on top of a moving train, right? And if you fight on top of a moving train, you better jump or make sure your head stays low to the ground when certain obstacles are coming your way. There's definitely segments where they'll give you a bunch of weapons to play with, just so you can mow down just big hordes of enemies. All sorts of stage hazards like bottomless pits, and I've definitely fallen into a few in my time. Some of the later stages actually getting kind of difficult. Like there'll be little bugs in the background that are always shooting at you, never ceasing, and you gotta worry about dodging those projectiles while you're fighting everything else along the way. A stage is as important to a beat 'em up just as much as any of the characters are, and I'm very glad to say, on top of just being a lot of stages, every stage has its own gimmick or just something about it that makes it special. A lot of them have unique enemies to the stages as well. That just make each stage its own unique fun thing. Like some stages definitely stick out more than others, but other than that, like I appreciate they went the extra mile just to make sure everything has its own flavor. Variety is the spice of life after all. And now just to note a difference here about campaign and arcade. So campaign is basically the story mode, if you will. So you go through all the stages of the game, you beat all the bosses, this is where you unlock everything. You might notice here, each stage has like little icons beside the stage. These are your challenges, and every stage has its own unique set of challenges, just to add a bit more spice. And challenges is how you unlock the currency in the Cosmic Matrix to just unlock a variety of the stuff of the game. And one of the things you unlock here besides, music, colors, all that kind of stuff, is you unlock arcade mode modifiers. So arcade mode is the classical style of arcade mode in a 2D beat 'em up. So as you can see here, classic arcade experience with limited lives, continues, no save progression. So campaign mode, you'll eventually just beat it by playing it, like pretty much. Arcade mode is meant to be more difficult, and with the modifiers, like you see here, just the usual character stuff, right? But then we enter the modifiers. What difficulty do you want? Because there's a lot of difficulties. Even stuff like enemy configurations. The enemies spawn based off how many players are in the game. So if you want to be crazy, you can set it to hard mode and 4-player spawns, and then you're on like some real difficulty. If you don't want to deal with arcade limitations, we got stuff like free play, have a team built of multiples of the same character. Basically just a lot of modifiers, right? So if you're looking for a lot more difficulty past the main campaign and really challenge yourself, this is where all of that is. Now, at the top of the video, I mentioned about Marvel vs. Capcom. We're primarily a fighting game channel here, and there's a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom references, like not the least alone, like Eddie, right? Venom. We got classic Venom, but how about Marvel vs. Capcom Blue Venom, right? We got some color references that are distinctly Marvel vs. Capcom, but a lot more than just basic colors. Let's say more than a few moves are reminiscent of some classic versus games. Someone like Venom. Definitely got some Venom Fang action going on here, because they know where the history of these characters lie. Someone like Wolverine probably has a move or two you might recognize. Might turn you into some Swiss cheese, let's put it that way, right? So just paying respect to a lot of the classical versions of the characters, but also where they've been in other games, and I'm a big fan of that. So overall, Marvel Cosmic Invasion, I think, is a really good package for what it is. And to keep in mind, for what it is, right? As a 2D brawler slash beat 'em up, it's not exactly reinventing the wheel. It's not going to make you rethink your life in a profound way. It's just some quality beat 'em up action. And if you also have some friends to play with, it's going to be all the better yet, because the action is just frenetic and nuts. In a lot of ways, this is just a big nostalgia trip for some of the 90s Marvel characters and settings, and it does that very well. Some of the gameplay systems are actually quite smart for a brawler slash beat 'em up style game. There's actually more depth than the average brawler, especially if you want to get into the arcade mode stuff with all the modifiers. There's a great amount of content. There's so many stages, so many bosses. If you like Marvel and you're in for like a trip down memory lane, I think this is a very worthwhile proposition. So yeah, it's not high art, but it doesn't need to be high art when it's just plain fun, in my opinion anyways. So as a review, I'll just give it the most simple review I can give it, that it is a thumbs up. If you're inclined to beat 'em ups at all, I think this one is worth your time. And if any of it sounds interesting to you, again, check out the game and check out the link in the video description as well so you can learn more. And that all said, that's it for me, and that's it for the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Marvel Cosmic Invasion.